global politics, and especially everything having to do with Elon Musk. Our guest is Dennis Neal. If you didn't get a chance to see our interview with him on our show that came out, I want to say about a month and a half ago, you really must check that out, where we talk about his most recent book. And he's a widely published author and journalist. In fact, he's going to tell us about a new piece he's just written about Elon
hmm
Musk. Thanks for joining us tonight, Dennis. Great to have you on the live tonight.
It's great to see you, Leighton. Thanks for having me back. That always makes me feel wanted. A lot of times these are a one-off. You never hear from them again. You feel like
Mhm.
they made out with you and they never called you the next day.
While you may regret the decision to come back, hopefully you won't. I know our viewers and listeners will not regret you coming back. I know you're gonna have some great
hmm
stuff to say. Michael, great to see you. Welcome back on the
Good to
program.
be
Our
here.
good friend Michael Klassen of the 5 a.m. podcast, and also the brain, if there is one, behind our show. So great to see you, Michael. Let's
Good to
talk
be
about
here.
Dennis. We're going to talk about, so people know who he is. If you haven't seen that, by the way, you
hmm
really must go check out our interview with Dennis that came out. I also want to remind you, I had a great interview with Bill Walton of the Bill Walton Show. Wonderful man. We talked a lot about world economics. Really fascinating guy who just has a deep understanding of what's going on with the economy. And of course, most of us, myself included, really don't understand the ins and outs, let alone the deep ideas that are moving everything that's economic in our world. And so, and we had a really fun conversation. So check that out. Also, we have a new commentary coming out in the next couple of days. I'm working on another one right now that's talking about what people are doing, all the Frankensteinian things people are doing with science. It's called Dangerous Knowledge. Anyway, let's talk about Dennis. Dennis is an award-winning journalist, media strategist, and host of the podcast What's Bugging Me. Terrific show, by the way. You can check out on the Ricochet Network. He was an anchor at CNBC and Fox Business after serving as senior editor at the Wall Street Journal. He's just written a new piece for them, by the way. And he was managing editor of Forbes. And he helped the late, great Lou Dobbs write the best selling book, The Trump Century: How Our President Changed the Course of History Forever. And as you can probably guess in the background, Dennis, he's a New Yorker. We're going to be talking to him specifically about New York, but he lives in Brooklyn. And he dreams of having dinner with Elon Musk someday. On the subject of Elon Musk, as we mentioned on the show, Dennis has written an incredible book that I have read and thoroughly enjoyed. It's a type of book that is not difficult to read. It's not like Maps of Meaning by Jordan Peterson. It's a lot, not that it's light reading. There's a lot of great information in it, but there's also a lot of humor, a lot of anecdotal stuff, and it's a wonderful sort of biography of this man of our time, and it's called The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. It was released earlier this year, and it's about the one of the most influential figures of our time, Elon Musk, the most talked about man in America. He and Donald Trump at any given time, or at least who isn't running for president yet. The leadership genius of Elon Musk, veteran business journalist Dennis Neal, our guest. He chronicles Musk's extraordinary journey, presenting him as a beacon of inspiration. Musk's unparalleled success and an innovator and entrepreneur is not just a testament to his genius, but a playbook for those daring to dream big. And I love that aspect of the book. And not that it's a sort of a love letter. There's some wrinkles on the man as well that come forth in the book. But Dennis, I wanted to start here, if you don't mind. Elon Musk has seems to have faded from view a little bit after the apparent breakup of the bromance with Donald Trump, after his work with Doge was done. But he's been busy. He's starting a new political party. What's happening with Mr. Musk right now? Give us
Yeah.
an update. I
Well,
understand you just wrote a piece for the Wall Street Journal on
well,
this.
no, not for the Journal, but for
Okay.
Newsmax. Newsmax.
Newsmax. Yeah,
Let me
sorry.
just tell you, Leighton, I'm reluctant to begin speaking because I just love the sound of your voice talking about me. I could just listen and listen and listen. Thank you so much. I'm drunk with power now. I'm going to be insufferable for the next 50 minutes or so. So about Elon Musk and President Trump and their big breakup, which was almost inevitable, right? I mean, the media were goading him with it. Elon's the surrogate president, and you know, Trump, his other advisors were terribly jealous of Elon. I mean, their toddlers aren't playing on the lawn with the president. So we knew they were going to break up. But what I have detected, and what I have a column up on Newsmax.com that just went up this afternoon, the reconciliation is at hand. And I have several key signs. But the latest sign showed up this morning on the front page of the Wall Street Journal saying here that Elon Musk has given up on the America.
So there won't be an
Party.
America Party after all.
And I had just put this in my podcast out on Thursday. I had just did a parting shot saying, he hasn't filed yet at the Federal Election Commission. Maybe that's a sign. And here it is. Now, this follows several different developments. First of all, a few weeks ago, the Trump administration out of nowhere gives us sanctions against this Brazilian chief Supreme Court justice, a guy who's an avowed enemy of Elon Musk. Well, you could sanction all kinds of guys out there. What you going after this guy? Then the attack on Big Balls happens after this 19-year-old incredible hero tries to break up a carjack and comes to this woman's aid. And President Trump goes on his Truth Social and says they ought to federalize the DC cop force. And sure enough, Elon comes in there on X and says, he retweets the president's post. Okay, so he's agreeing with him. All right. Then you've got a poll comes out from Gallup saying that Elon Musk is the most disliked man in America, 33% positive, 61% negative. And they asked Trump live, do you agree? Do you miss him around the White House? And Trump sounds almost wistful. And he says, I don't know that I agree with that poll. I think he's a good person. He had a bad moment, meaning that breakup where he said all that bad stuff. And then Gateway Pundit interview, I think it's August 9th, with J.D. Vance. And J.D. says, the fact is, Elon, he can't go back to the Democrats. They're never going to forgive him. I mean, that ship has sailed. He really ought to come back into the fold. Now, forgive the filibuster, guys, I'm sorry, but do we think that J.D. Vance, rather loyal, obedient vice president, would have said that on his own accord without making sure that President Trump is okay with this outreach? And what that means is that was actually an invitation to Elon from the president himself. So I put that out on Thursday, and now, boom, on Wednesday, are we in Wednesday? Yeah, the Journal comes out with this story. And I'm pretty sure the reporters, a listener to What's Bugging Me, and he heard it from me first, and he decided to check on it, and his sources are better than mine. Okay, there you go.
So does your piece explain, because I don't fully understand this, Dennis, the reasons for the breakup in the first place? There seems to be different versions of this. Elon Musk, he had a great line. He said, you can have a big bill or a beautiful bill. You can't have both. He didn't think that the cuts that were promised to the American people were deep enough. And then on the flip side, after he sort of said, I don't want any part of this, I'm getting out of here, Trump says, oh, well, he's just upset because he didn't get his EV subsidies.
Yeah.
So what's the truth about why the breakup in the first place?
Smack him back because he just kept prodding, and Trump had to do that. But even then, Trump was gentler than he usually is when he has been betrayed. And this is a terrible betrayal. And it mainly is because of the big, beautiful bill. Yeah. Elon Musk has succeeded at almost every single thing he has tried in life. He goes into Doge. He says, I figure we're going to cut $2 trillion. Later, he says, well, we can cut $1 trillion in annual spending. After his first 100 days that he's limited to be a special advisor without any required approval or vetting, after 100 days, he got to $175 billion. Dude, that's not even 20% of what you hope to get of $1 trillion goal. So he's feeling stung by that. He can't believe that even Republicans are opposing these cuts. What is wrong here? And he's a very logical being, Spock-like. And my gosh, if I show you wasteful spending, of course, you will all agree we should cut it. How could anyone be against that? So he leaves stung. He's also lost his access to the White House. He misses that. And then he sees this big, beautiful bill come out, and it would add $3 trillion, says the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office. $3 trillion in 10 years, wiping out the $1.75 trillion in 10 years that he's been able to get through Doge. He feels utterly disgusted and disregarded. He had threats to his life to do this.
Yes, he did.
Angry too. That's when he acts out. That's when he loses it. And then they split. And I'll be darned, the tariff revenue starts coming in. We've got a or 125 billion. It's coming in at a run rate of more than 300 billion a year. Over 10 years, that would wipe out the debt increase of $3 trillion that the big, beautiful bill was going to
Yeah.
cause. And
Yeah.
so maybe Elon's realizing this entire split was unnecessary. They're not
Yeah.
wiping out my effort. It's going to be
Yeah.
okay. The tariffs are going to make it okay.
Yeah. This is a great point. And actually, I was going to ask you about these tariffs because, of course, it was very controversial when it happened back in April. The stock market was down. It's been very painful for countries like Canada. But there's just no question. I mean, U.S. collects 29 billion in tariff revenues in July alone, which sets
Yeah.
a new monthly record.
And
And
had a
essentially, it's
surplus.
averaging. Here's the graphic. Michael's got it up here. Like this is incredible. An average of 25 billion dollars of
Yeah.
excess cash flow. I don't. Maybe you know what excess cash flow feels like, Dennis. But I mean, that sounds really good for America.
It certainly is
And
a
yeah,
change
so
in the trend. And here's a weird thing. One weird thing is there was in early April a $6.6 trillion loss over a few days in the stock market, down 11% in 2 days. Super experts like Wharton's Jeremy Siegel on CNBC saying this is the worst policy mistake by a president in 95 years. It's going to fuel inflation. It's going to fuel a worldwide trade war. Oh my gosh, we're ruining relations. The editor at large of the Wall Street Journal, Gerard Baker, did it up, and he said he's destroying the brand of the U.S. around the world, and it can never be restored. I mean, so much panic, so much fear mongering. And it's not because they're upset about tariffs. It's because they're upset about Donald Trump. And they
yeah.
despise Trump and they are blinded by their hatred for him. So no one thought that maybe it'll be okay. Now we're, 5, 6, 7 months into it. So far, we're okay. It turns
Yeah.
out 65% of the tariff increases are being absorbed by the U.S. importers. They don't want to try to raise prices on consumers. Consumers are sick of it. They won't buy it. And the other, most of it is being absorbed by the supplier. And that's what happens in capitalism and free markets, by golly. And so
Yeah.
far, it's been totally oversold how terrible the tariffs are going to be. And my
Yeah.
gosh, the Democrats are so upset that big companies don't pay enough tax to the government. Well, now big companies like Ford that import a whole lot of parts for their cars and then, assemble them here in the US, now they're paying more tax to the government. Why aren't Democrats happy about this?
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting. We're talking about Trump and Musk, and you talk about this a lot in your book. And people from the outside, including myself, might look at someone like Elon Musk or Donald Trump and say, well, they've just had this meteoric rise to success. It just looks like this. But in fact, when you go and you study their lives, and this is true of Mr. Trump and Musk and really anybody who's been very successful, is you see within their journey, you see a lot of failure, but you see them reacting to failure in a very different way than most people do. Donald Trump talks about he has this line, he talks about back in 1990 when he saw a guy who was a panhandler on the street. And he was like $900 million in debt. He said, that guy hasn't got a penny. He's $900 million richer than me. And same goes for Elon Musk. In
Yeah,
your book, you talk about how he overcame a lot of different
yeah.
setbacks and
He
various times. And
thrives
there's
on
just
failure.
there's this resilience and acceptance of challenges. And this is a very instructive part of studying someone like an Elon Musk or Donald Trump, isn't it?
Yeah, well, my book, The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk, offers 11 lessons of Elon because I love alliteration. And one of the lessons talks about exactly that it is, I think it's lesson 9. It is better to launch and burn than never to launch at all. And
Right.
Elon thrives on failure. He sees it as part of the necessary steps to success. And with each failure, you can learn. And, I learned this in my own career. I was fired by Fox Business Network with 15 minutes notice. They didn't even let me empty out my
A
office.
lot of good people have been fired by Fox, Dennis.
Yeah.
That's a badge of
And,
honor
and,
for you.
and it was the only first time in my career I've been fired. My God, I was just so devastated. And I meet with the CEO of a founder of Indiegogo, this fundraiser site. the next Monday, and I tell him, see, the thing is that I feel like I failed. And he says, you didn't fail, you learned. And I just never forgot that message. And I feel like SpaceX certainly shows that, because they had dozens of explosions and failures on the way to
Yeah.
Falcon 9
Hmm.
and on the way to you know, Starship. And
Hmm.
it's just amazing that, and yet most of us guys, we fear failure. We do
Yes.
everything we can to avoid failure.
Right.
We turn down risk. We turn down a new job someplace because, man, what if it doesn't work out? I'm
Right.
embarrassed by my family. I'm, part of divorce. When I got divorced, I felt like such a failure. Like, we
Hmm.
can't manage to make this work. And so you shrink from life instead
Yeah.
of, reveling in it and going for it. And man, Elon, just time after time, he would have a big success. Ooh, here's my first 25 million. Boom, he'd take it and bet it on the next thing.
Yep.
Then he'd reap suddenly 100 million. Take half of that, bet it on the next thing.
But he's always betting on himself, isn't he?
Yeah, you've got to
Yeah.
always bet on yourself and double down. And I have a
Yeah.
story in the book about that where I learned this lesson for myself. All right, I'm at CNBC for 3 years. They canceled a show of mine. I had it on for 6 months, 8 o'clock at night, solo anchor. That was my dream. That was my goal. I got it, failed utterly. Okay, they cancel it. And I see the CEO, 6'5", Mark Hoffman at the time. And when you're 6'5", you own the world. You run this big business network. And I ask him, look, I'm thinking of taking everything I have, $200,000, putting it down on $1 million apartment. But my contract, it's only 3 years, coming up for renewal. Would you, if you were me, would you do that? And all he says is, you should always bet on yourself.
Uh-huh.
I didn't
Yep.
buy the apartment because I
Mm.
thought it said he's not going to renew me, because he stopped short of saying that. And sure enough, 3 months later, I left. They tried to cut my salary 35%. I left and went to Fox Business. And yet, in the next 20 years, guys, I paid $4 million in rent down the drain. If
Oh
I
yeah.
had bet on myself, if I
Yeah.
had bought that apartment, I would have today probably a $2.5, $3 million apartment and own it free and clear. But I didn't have the courage to do it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, you're feeling upwards, Dennis. You got a great book. You got your own TV show, still publishing everywhere. So don't be too hard on yourself. Many people follow you and love what you do, including us. But speaking
Hmm.
of failure, I want to talk about the Trump Putin peace talks. There's
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
great pictures from the White House, which sort of there's
So
there's
good.
one that kind of captures the whole post World War II world, and this is where you see all these leaders. Of course, our prime minister
Except
is
for
absent,
Canada.
conspicuous by his absence, but all these world leaders from Europe and elsewhere, and Mr. Zelensky's there, and they're all sort of sitting around Mr. Trump's desk in the Oval Office,
Yes.
just waiting for him to tell them how
Right.
it's going to go
And
down.
and there's another one that shows him sitting outside waiting
Yes.
to be ushered in all in a row. And someone
Yeah.
posted it, I think it was Zero Hedge, who said, waiting outside the principal's office.
That's what it looked like.
But there's been a lot of failure here, right? Sadly, um, you know, it's been a situation where it was really the war mostly got going under Obama. It went into a lull when Mr. Trump was president during his first administration. Of course, things went really crazy once Biden became, and I think Putin said, I think he said actually at the Alaska summit, he said if
Yeah.
Trump had been president, the war wouldn't have broke out again. But
That
here we are, and it looks like there's going to be a peace deal, and they even got Zelensky to wear something resembling a suit of
He wore
clothes,
a
no
jacket.
tie, right? What do you think? Are
okay.
we failing upward here? Or do you
Let
think
me
Trump is actually going to strike
right.
a peace deal with these guys?
Yeah, he is. Let me unspool a couple things here, because I was fascinated that when Trump manages, in a matter of moments, he gets Putin to come see him in Alaska, all right, and meet in person to discuss a peace. How do we get to a peace deal? Now, every other president before him that I've ever seen, their handlers work for weeks and months in advance. What are the preconditions? What are the expectations? What do we want to get out of this? What's our messaging? Because we don't want the media to say we fell short. Oh my God, we can't fail. Trump just wants to get together and talk. He's so certain, and he charms people. I've been with him in person twice before I ever ran for president. Charms your socks off, man. And he just wants to get in person because he feels like if I can get him in the room, I can get something done. So he does this, and the first thing Reuters does out of the meeting, Trump fails to reach peace deal, and everyone else, he fails. They come out without a deal. The war's been going on for more than 3 years. Biden did nothing. He's only talking for 3 hours, but it's a failure that he didn't get a deal. Don't you think your expectations were a little unrealistic? It is instead a success that he got the guy to sit down and to agree, and then he's got Zelensky, and then he brings those European guys in there. This is all incredible. And
Right.
now a couple things happen. Isn't it true, guys, that Putin can no longer afford to say, "Flup you, all you guys, I don't care." He sees all of a unified Europe and Trump and Zelensky saying, "Let's settle this thing." He's even got Zelensky not rejecting out of hand the idea of giving up some land that
Yeah.
he has spent a lot of, what is that, blood and whatever
Yeah.
to grab onto. And Putin's never going to give up. He feels like Ukraine, or at least that eastern part, Russian speaking part, they identify as Russian. They should be with Russia. He, something like 4 or 5 years ago in the summer, wrote a big op-ed saying this way before his invasion. And yeah, he was kind of provoked into it, but also it's just been a terrible, terrible thing for both sides.
Yeah.
Why can't everyone be happy that they're at least talking? And so I put together tonight's podcast. It's out tomorrow afternoon. And I see Rachel Maddow saying, "This is disastrous, this meeting." And she's upset that he put
She's
Putin on the red
disastrous.
carpet. But he had these people, the Europeans, they had Monica Crowley, whom I know, she's very sweet, greet them, the ambassador protocol, greet them at the back door of the White House, ushering them in. No big pomp and circumstance, no, cameras waiting to hear what they say. No, nothing. No, you're going to wait for, oh my gosh. And this is just driving liberals and the media.
Oh, yeah.
And the
Yeah.
Democrats absolutely bonkers. They can't even believe this. And so they're complaining about it. And I've got sound from Rachel Maddow, and I've got sound from Mark Elias, a Hillary Clinton advisor, who's just apoplectic over some of this stuff. And yet, then you hear the president of Finland praising Trump and saying we got more done in 3 weeks than in the past 3.5 years. Then you've got the minister of NATO or something, deputy chair, come out saying, "Wow, you've really moved this forward." I mean, just wonderful. World leaders, now they don't mean it. They're sucking up to Trump and they're appealing to his ego. And that is a very effective strategy, right? And yet, I'll take it. I'll take any kind of praise I can get. And so,
Sure. Yeah. If you want to just see how corrupt that leftist media is, today the big story was, they were criticizing Trump because he wanted to save lives and because he thought if he saved 7,000 lives per day, remember, these aren't American lives, these are Russian and Ukrainian lives, that, that might help him get into heaven. Heaven forbid you have a president who actually wants to go to heaven or actually talks about heaven. Wow, that's just terrible. But Michael, I want to turn to you for a second because we've been talking about these tariffs for Canada. It's been a real ouch. And our prime minister was excluded from this meeting.
Oh, yes.
I think part of the reason why Mark Carney was excluded from that meeting is because Justin Trudeau and Barack Obama were largely responsible for getting Russia kicked out of the G8. Remember, it used to be the G8. Now it's a G7. But when the war broke out, Justin Trudeau, who called Putin all kinds of terrible names, and Barack Obama conspired to kick Russia out of the G8. I think that was part of the reason why Mark Carney was excluded, even though Canada, next to the United States, has actually made the largest per capita public spending contributions and provision of materiel to Ukraine to fight the Russians. But, as a Canadian, what are your thoughts about this, about our prime minister not being included in this meeting that occurred at the White House?
Yes, I was joking with someone when the picture came out that what that actually was is because Trump was representing Canada.
Yeah.
But anyway, behind the
that's really good.
Yeah, and would do a much better job than our
he
prime
would
minister.
do a much better job. But I personally think that there's a good rapport between Vladimir Putin and President Donald Trump.
Oh yeah.
And I would say perhaps there was a question. Listen, I know everyone's getting together, but I would take it as a personal favor if that Mark Carney guy did not show up.
Yeah.
And to talk about
Okay.
doubling down.
I got to take the other side of this trade
Okay.
against the both of
Okay.
you because I think your analysis gives the Americans, the Trump administration, far more credit for being balanced and fair and strategic and thinking about history and G7, G8. No, this is nothing more than this. This Canuck pissed me off. Trump.
Yeah.
He's the only
Okay.
guy who hasn't really come to the table and bowed to my tariff
Yeah.
demands the way some of the biggest nations in the world have done.
Yeah.
And he's ticking me off. And no, we're not going to let him be part of this party. That's where this came from. It was totally petty, and it had to do with that. Would be my guess. Not
Oh,
because
wow.
Well, that's
Wow.
good.
lofty strategic aims that you're talking.
Yeah, I was thinking it was petty on. I don't want to say petty on Putin's part, but I was just thinking because even last week, right around the time of the meeting in Alaska, Canada was like, "Hey, how much do you need? We can manufacture some more money and send it your way."
Right.
Zelensky,
Yeah.
who thank you for pointing out that he was actually wearing a jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The very
And
same
he was,
reporter
yeah.
created the kerfuffle the first time around, compliments him and kind of apologizes. But you know the reporter was loving it because all of us as journalists, and I was one for
Yeah.
more than 30 years, we're dying to tell good stories,
Yeah,
but we're dying to have people listen to us tell
Yeah,
them.
Zelensky actually had a good comeback. He says, "Yeah, I noticed you are wearing the suit.
The
It's the
same
same
suit.
one you were wearing last time." So,
And then Trump, though, Trump gives a big smile. He
Yeah.
beams. He's
yeah.
happy to.
It was important for this meeting to stay on the rails, wasn't it, Dennis? Because of what happened the last time when
Sure.
obviously
Yeah.
Zelensky really miscalculated. He came
Well,
in there
again,
and he got
now look at how the media responded to that first kerfuffle. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, this will set back the U.S.'s international image. Again, all of this crepe hanging, all of this doomsaying and fear mongering. And yet, if it had done that, how did he manage to get all of these people to come on a moment's notice to meet and let him run things? I mean, it's extraordinary. And I really think even some members of the libwit lapdog media are starting to like Trump, man. They can't help it, okay?
Yeah.
He's the most available off-the-cuff president. He does not stick to three talking points and repeat the same thing over and over again. He sits
Yeah.
there and shoots from the hip. He was on the roof of the White House the other day, checking it out for this idea of he wants to build this big ballroom and
Yeah.
and
With
the
his own
reporters
money.
putting questions up to him, you know. And I mean, I just think there's a begrudging admiration that some members of the Washington Press Corps might be starting to feel. How can you not? Look at the peace deals that he did.
Yeah.
I mean, Cambodia, Thailand, what is it? Armenia, Azerbaijan,
I've already forgotten about Israel
Congo,
already. Yeah.
Rwanda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there's another.
Yeah.
There's a couple more. My gosh.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. But speaking of talking about Mark Carney, speaking of socialist politicians, it looks like New York isn't going to get one as your next mayor. Zoran Mandani.
Oh, man.
What is going on? Like,
Do not mess
not
with
not
this
that there are
already.
other great candidates,
Yeah, what
in the
hell
race,
happened?
but
I mean,
this
look,
guy.
but there was a great candidate, and that's Governor Cuomo. He was a New York governor for 2 terms. He got elected. His
Yeah.
father was a legend, and he was ousted not because his policies.
Yeah. Is he a great candidate though? I can't get over
ousted
it.
people
All of
of-
his
in
COVID
nursing homes. No,
stuff.
he was
Yeah.
ousted because of hashtag Me Too, because he
Yeah.
hit on some women.
Yeah.
But when you look at the polls and you look at him and Eric Adams, the outgoing mayor,
Yeah.
and Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, all three together don't add up to how many votes he's got in
Yeah.
the Democratic Party alone, Mamdani. Now, it's awful. I went and voted in the Democrat Party. It's the first time I'm a registered Democrat because in New York, the Republican Party has no power. And so these are going to be the leaders.
Right,
But I haven't
yeah.
voted for a Democrat in like 10 years. I'm so disgusted with them. But I went there and I voted for Cuomo. I did not do the 5 votes you're supposed to do for mayor and rank them. And they start swapping votes. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then he wins straight out. And this guy, I'm a New Yorker 40 years. I follow the news. I don't know who he is, all right? He was only a U.S. citizen as of 2018. He was elected like 4.5 years ago, filed bills no one ever remembers. He's out of nowhere. In the 6 weeks before the Democrat primary, he was in the Obama war room twice at the same time that 2 members of the Iran Revolutionary Guard were there.
Oh wow.
Now we know this because a guy on the X platform named Tony Saruga. He has the ESNs of every gadget in America. He owns, for some reason, the rights to the data, and he can track those ESNs.
Wow.
And he's the one who posted this. Now, has anyone in the mainstream media deigned to ask
Yeah.
Oran about this? No, no one has.
Yeah.
And at first, the Democrats, they're saying, well, congratulations, but they stopped short. Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat leader in the House, they stopped short of saying, and we endorse him. Now, along comes Pocahontas, Thin Lizzy, Senator Elizabeth
Yes.
Warren.
Yeah.
She has come out and wholeheartedly endorsed him and said, this is the future of the Democrat
Yeah.
Party.
AOC too.
Communism.
Yeah. AOC is supporting him. And, it's really shocking. A lot of people focused on the fact that he's Muslim and supports sort of radical Muslim, or appears to. But I think
Globalized,
I think the deeper problem for me is, if I were a New Yorker, frankly he's typical of Canadian politicians. But the bigger concern for me would be that he's a communist. Like,
total.
you want to have a communist mayor of the most important city in your country. Where is this coming from? He had secured the nomination with 56% of the vote after this ranked choice tabulations that you
Right.
talked about.
Now
Um,
understand,
yeah,
only 9% of voters bothered to show up at the polls for that election. And yet
right.
this guy was going to Muslim groups and telling them there are 1 million Muslims in this city. And not only do we belong here, but we belong in City Hall. And so they voted as a block. And so we're turning into like Minneapolis
Wow.
and Ilhan Omar's district if we're not careful.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
our own fault because we didn't get out and do it. And it's the candidates' fault. And it's their fault now, the other rivals, because they aren't bowing out of the race and saying, let's all throw our support around one guy. And when Mamdani is elected, Kami Mamdani, there will be a flood of businesses leaving New York. There'll be a flood of upper income people leaving New York. I may be one of them.
Yeah. Well, this, I mean, I just don't know how this is going to work. You're a New Yorker, obviously. You live in Brooklyn. This it's got to be concerning. I wonder, and I'm going to try and connect a couple of dots here. You tell me if I'm off base, but we noticed that Donald Trump has taken over policing in the Capitol.
Yes.
And he, in discussing it public, he said, we got to clean up DC, and we have to clean up some other cities too. He talked about places like, Chicago and San Francisco. Might New York be one of those cities too if Mr. Mamdani becomes your new mayor?
So,
What do you think about that? Is that am I overreaching, or is that a possibility?
well, for that to happen anywhere else in the country other than Washington, D.C., the federal troops, the National Guard would have to be requested, invited in, because he has, through this home rule charter in D.C., which is not technically a real incorporated city so much as it is a place of governance, a place for the
It
government.
belongs to all Americans, right?
Right. And,
Yeah.
and so, he can't sit anywhere else. But I'll tell you something: the first Democrat who will become a superstar in that party, for the middle of the party that's left, will be the first Democrat mayor in a high crime city who says, President Trump, please send in the same guys that just kind of fixed Washington, D.C., those bad neighborhoods, because I got some pockets of my city that I got to clean up. These cities have just let these homeless encampments go on forever. And whereas in Washington, D.C., they got bulldozers clearing it out. Where are the protesters, by the way? Where are the people saying this is a terrible, terrible thing? Oh, I guess now that we've cut the funding to USAID, and that cut funding to NGOs, and they don't have the money to pay protesters to come out and protest against this. Just incredible. But that Trump did it in Washington shows us this can be done if only Democrat mayors will grow the stones and the courage to bring him in and let it be done.
Yeah, yeah. But I want to bring Elon Musk back into this conversation because it's becoming clear, to many observers, especially perhaps people outside the United States, that the Trump administration has a long game. They have a long-term strategy that make America great again isn't just about, economic policy, isn't just about military policy, isn't just about restoring national pride, that there's a longer-term strategy. And coming back to, the start of this conversation, I'd like to know from you, presuming that you're right, and you probably are, that Elon Musk is sort of coming back into the fold, what is going to be his role in Make America Great Again going forward? What do you think about that?
I don't think he's going to go back inside and take any kind of active role. I think he really wants to get back to business. It has helped his stock price, which has gone from the 250 range up to kind of 330 or
Oh,
so.
I'm relieved because I know how much he needs the money.
Right, exactly. Well, no, but more than that, it is a measure for all of his shareholders and all of Wall Street and the investor world at how good a job he's doing or not doing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so that's important to him. So I think that he doesn't want to get swallowed up by government, but he's got his disciples in place from Doge. And the systems now that they have in place are able to gaze and find anomalies and unexplained expenses, et cetera. And so you'll continue to see revelations and new reports come out. And then his X platform will be able to get those out past the media, which will try to bury it. And so I think that he can continue to have a multiplier effect. And don't forget that every savings that they're able to make and get Congress to approve ends up compounding year after year
right.
after year.
Yeah,
The thing about our government is we were taking in about 4 trillion a year and spending 5 trillion before COVID. COVID came along and we were spending 7 trillion in this crisis in a single year. And finally we were taking in 5 trillion a year, but we never stopped spending 7 trillion a year.
right.
Why? Because once government spending starts, it never stops.
Yeah,
And so that
entitlements.
Elon Musk and Doge got 175 billion in annual spending, which others laughed at, was itself incredible. And it
Yeah,
should be appreciated more than it is. And the media tried to bury that too. I don't recognize the media. I love them. I love the people I worked with, but they've lost it. Trump broke them and they've lost their mission and they've lost sight of the real truth.
yeah. One other story that made me think of Elon Musk was, I forget who it was, but somebody in the Trump administration was talking about putting a nuclear power on the moon. And then that made me think of something that's in your book, where Musk envisions using the moon as a launching point to get to Mars. Are those dots that can be connected?
Yeah, I mean, his first flight though, and he wants it to take off maybe in late 2026. That's when there's a window that opens every 2 years where you can slingshot to Mars in only 9 months.
Yeah,
So he's going
yeah,
to take that and get there in only 9 months, and that'll be a straight shot. And he'll bring an Olympus robot that will then walk around on Mars. You'll see this thing walking around on Mars. I mean, that would be just an incredible achievement to think about in
yeah,
terms, especially how it would be so inspiring. But he does not feel like we should settle the moon because the moon is too close to the Earth.
right.
And while Elon is an amazingly optimistic person, I opened the book with an epigram. Um, I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right.
Yeah,
And yet,
yeah,
his incredible optimism is in pursuit of a very pessimistic, fatalistic vision that yes, the Earth is going to die out in millions of years from now. We need to be interplanetary. And if you're on the moon too close in a nuclear holocaust on Earth, it's going to wipe out the moon too. You've got to be
yeah,
farther out to Mars. But another lesson of my book is that you got to dream huge and be willing to spend decades pursuing it. His dream of Mars, it's not even the biggest part of his dream. After Mars, he wants to get to Io, a moon of Jupiter, because what if Mars were to blow up? And from Jupiter, maybe we can get into the asteroid belt, literally. I mean, look, this Neuralink brain chip he's got in now, I
yeah,
think 6 or 7 people.
yeah,
So sweet, man. This woman named Audrey was talking on X for the first time. She has only 6,000 followers, but she's the newest brain recipient chip and the first woman. Okay, and I thought, wow, someday paraplegics and people who are paralyzed and et cetera, amputees, they'll be able to use this brain chip. No, Elon feels like in 20 or 30 years, millions of able-bodied regular people, we will be walking around with a brain chip to help us communicate faster, super fast with AI.
yeah,
We'll
yeah,
all have a brain chip.
yeah. That makes me think of flowers for Algernon. But folks, if you're just joining us, we've been talking with Dennis Neal. He's a Brooklyn-based writer, author, journalist, and podcaster. He's the author of a book called The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk, which we featured on our show on an episode not too long ago. Check that out. Also, check out his book. It's available on Amazon and elsewhere, also on his own website. He's also got his own podcast called What's Bugging Me. You want to check that out. I wanted to ask you, Dennis, about some of the attacks that are being made. Obviously, the Trump administration is having really incredible success. I think even people within the administration are just astonished at how
It's
much has been accomplished in like what has it been, 7 months?
yeah,
But
200
no,
days.
yeah,
Unbelievable. I've never
yeah.
seen anything
I've
like
never seen it. I've never seen it in my lifetime. It's even blowing away anything that Ronald Reagan did. And it's hard to imagine that Donald Trump would be so good at being president. But there are attacks, and one of them is RFK Jr., who's a man that many people admire, including myself. He's got this MAHA, this Make America Healthy Again, and the left is constantly trying to cause rifts and ripples and fissures within the MAGA movement, and they're doing it here because, of course, RFK Jr. is, heaven forbid, he's talking about things like health and getting sugar out of soda pop, but he's also taking on big pharma on things like pesticides, and things like vaccines. How do you foresee this going forward? I mean,
well,
this alliance
yeah.
between RFK Jr. and Trump, is this going to be a place where the left can maybe
They're working
punch
on
a
it,
few
aren't they?
holes in the spaceship, or what do you think?
They're working on it. And their most
Yeah.
recent thing was they leaked a rumor that, oh, RFK Jr. wants to run in 2028. This, of course,
Yeah.
let's remember he was a Democrat. And but then he came out, I think just yesterday, on X in front of God and everybody and said, no, this is a lie. I am not running for president in 2028. That was a real step up, a sign of loyalty to Trump.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated that Trump, who is such a big ego, nonetheless is willing to hire these superstars from industry or from television who had previous careers before television, put them in place, and then let them work. And
Yeah.
he's not interfering and he's not asking what they're doing.
Yeah.
He's delegating, which is what a good CEO does. You put in the right people in place. In his
Yeah.
first term, he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't think he was going to win. They were unprepared, and so he had to rely on the Washington establishment, and they screwed him, and they did everything they could to topple him and undermine him. This
Yeah.
time he was ready, and I'll bet you anything they had some kind of AI chatbot mapping out their moves for every single day for the first 100 days. I mean, it was like clockwork. And they'd set a fire over a controversial issue, and the Democrats are barely even responding to that. And they've moved on to another one and another one and another one day by day. Just incredible. And the Democrats were in disarray. Had no idea where to focus their opposition. And so instead, the Democrat platform became, well, we're just against everything Donald Trump does. So now Trump keeps trapping them into coming out against the most rational policies. I mean, Trump wants to end the war. They're upset that he's, going to end the war soon. Trump wants to ban chemical castration of children who think they're trans. There are no trans children, okay? It's an adult decision. But the Democrats are against blocking chemical castration of children. He keeps getting them to take these outrageous stances. Now, on RFK, you know, changing the healthcare system at all is so terribly difficult. But I have learned watching Trump, haven't we, that you put words into the universe and things happen
Yeah.
because of those new
Words
words
are powerful.
never
Yeah.
been said before. And
Yeah.
we keep seeing example after example. And so that's one purpose that RFK really is serving. He is 70 years old. He can do 20 or is it 40 pull-ups, man.
I
I'm
saw him and Hegseth were having a
one or
contest. Did you see this, Dennis? They were having a contest who could do more. I think Hegseth
I
I
think
think
he
he's quite a bit
did more than
younger.
Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, and Hegseth is in
Hegseth
pretty
is
good shape. He's
40.
just in his 40s. So
Man.
incredible.
And so look, it doesn't mean that everything will change,
Yeah.
but it means that the margin, the point of change becomes far more dramatic because of this. It's hard to change the outlying system that's been in place for decades and decades, but something starts to change at the edge of it, and the entire conversation changes because of
Yeah.
it. And RFK definitely has managed that, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now let's talk more about the Democrats because as you were saying, they seem to be just in total disarray. The media seems to, the mass media seem to have been fully lost their influence that they once had under Biden and Obama. What is the future of this party? I mean, you've got
Man.
your midterm elections coming up next year. Is there a realistic chance that the Democrats could recover in time and and take back one of the two elected houses, or what do you think is is
I
is is
pray
the
to
future
God
for the
there's
party?
zero chance. I mean, oh my gosh, because they're just awful. Their policies are absolutely deplorable. And look at their bench for talent. It's just absolutely awful. I mean,
Yeah.
Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom. These are
Hmm.
disastrous possibilities. And
Right.
I'm just shocked. And they're terrified of the radical wing of their party. None of them have the courage to stand up and say, you guys have gone too far. We're running all of our policy based on trans rights when trans are 6 people in 1,000. Forget
Yeah.
about it. Who cares what trans
Yeah.
people want? And I have seen no one in the Democrat Party beginning to speak up about this. Uh,
Hmm.
I mean, Mark Penn, some Clinton advisor, never took much of a public role. Lately, on his podcast, he's been saying Democrats are getting in the position of opposing everything, even good policies, but it's very little. And no one in the Democrat Party has really realized how wrong they are about almost everything.
Right.
And when I talk to liberals, my friends, my nephew in his 30s, they don't know a thing about the world and how it really works.
Hmm.
Know what it should be.
Right.
I don't want anyone ever going hungry. That kind of thing. They
Yeah.
know the way it should be. And I learned that by listening to the great one, Mark Levin. When he
Yeah.
taught me when I listened, he said, liberals are always about what it should be, and conservatives are saying, well, no, well, let's see what's happened. And let's go based on that
Yeah.
and adjust to that. And
Yeah.
that's a huge dividing line. And the Democrats, my gosh, they need a new, utterly out of nowhere leader. And it is not Gavin Newsome.
Yeah.
Maybe it's going to be your new mayor is going to be their new leader someday.
You're a cruel man, Leighton.
Well, you get a big dose of what it's like to be a Canadian right now. But I wanted to sort of segue into not only a discussion of kind of the future of the Democrat Party, but what do you think is the future of the leadership of the Republican Party? Because of course, it's becoming more and more clear that Donald Trump is not going to seek a third term, and yet, okay, I'm saying that with my finger. Who knows? But you've got some very talented people
Yeah.
who
I
are
mean, what
looking
a
more
deep,
and more like they could be like
yeah.
your vice president could be an excellent president. Marco Rubio is really starting to shine, and I
And
could go down the list.
they're getting
Yeah,
great experience.
yeah,
Trump is letting them have great experience. Now, Trump recently kind of made a real tilt toward J.D. Vance. Okay. And he
yeah.
said he hopes that he is the successor of MAGA. It's
Right.
harder for a Rubio to be the successor of MAGA. He used to be an enemy of MAGA. He's far
Yeah.
more moderate,
But
but
he's
he's
been terrific in his current role.
yeah, he's done a
Yeah,
done a wonderful job. But look at that bench there. I mean, they're incredibly smart, accomplished people. Even Vivek Ramaswamy, and you've
yeah.
got J.D. Vance, and you've got who else? Let's see. Give some more Republican names. Or are they the only two? Um,
I think those are the two I would say
yeah,
front runners for president. Ramaswamy, as you know, he ran. My understanding is he's very interested in becoming the governor of Ohio, which
yep,
would be
he's
great
running for
news
that.
for Ohio, I
And
think.
he's an impressive guy. You meet him, you shake his hand, and you feel the positive, good energy
Yeah,
of a good person, a good actor in society.
yeah.
I met him at the Newsmax green room. Now, I think that it's going to be Vance. I'm not sure that even he can pick up the MAGA mantle. Now, one thing he's got going in his favor is these roots of a poor family,
Yes.
riddled with drug addiction and things
Yeah.
like that. He comes from that kind of earthy, down to earth American, so that can help him a lot here. But my gosh, is Trump going to stay in Washington like Obama did? Is he going to continue to pull strings and give mentorship and guidance.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. I'm uncomfortable with Obama doing it, so I should thereby be
Well,
uncomfortable.
speaking of Obama, that reminds me of something else I want to ask you about. Now, part of the disarray in the Democrat Party seems to be because Obama, who now looks like the puppet master. It's pretty clear Joe Biden wasn't the president.
Yes.
But people like Obama and Hillary Clinton, who were pulling a lot of strings, they faded to the background, and they're actually under threat of indictment. They're talking about seriously, the prospect of indicting Barack Obama. Is this realistic? Do you think this could
No,
happen?
no, not Barack Obama, because thanks to Donald Trump and fighting his cases when they went after him in 4 different cases with 714 felony counts or something all
Yeah.
combined,
Yeah.
and the Supreme Court said
That's not an exaggerated number, folks. I think that's the
Mhm.
correct
literally the
one.
right number.
Yeah.
And Supreme Court ruled that, dude, he's the president. You can't, no, ridiculous. We can't let some local prosecutor be able to tie up the entire administration in this. You're going to have to wait. Well, now with Obama, and they did it with this ruling saying it's because he's executing in the duties of the presidency. So Obama can say, when I approved that spy mission on Trump to try to undermine his entire first term, I was executing the duties of the president. And so he's fine. The one who should really be worried is Hillary Clinton, because she didn't get one of those preemptive pardons from Biden and the auto sign machine, and she clearly did illegal things. That's the thing that kills me, is these Democrats who were clearly so dirty have been allowed to go on cable news channels and continue to spend their lives. Susan Rice, Hillary Clinton, Mark Elias, all of these guys, all of Russiagate started because the Hillary Clinton campaign in the summer of 2016 said, we're in trouble with this home server thing and the emails to Hillary. How do we divert attention? Let's accuse Trump of Russiagate, Russia collusion.
Yep.
That was their thing. The FBI knew about it immediately, and instead Obama turned it as a way to go after Trump, all because of what started with the Hillary Clinton campaign. And that witch has the nerve to continue to act aggrieved and to act like Russia, Russia, Russia. They're really hanging in there with Russiagate, just like the Chinese are hanging in there with chopsticks 1,000 years after the fork and knife were invented.
It reminds me of a Seinfeld skit. Haven't they seen
That's
the fork?
exactly what that is. It's stolen.
So, Michael, I wanted to turn to you. Do we have any comments or questions from people
We
who are
don't.
tuning
It's
in
all-
for Dennis? Okay.
All quiet on the Western Front.
Okay. Well, so
That's pretty humiliating.
No, you're so eloquent. They just listen on the edge of their seats.
We did have one person that said fabulous guest. So,
Yeah.
That's nice.
so
Okay.
Dennis,
See?
there you go. Don't
we
feel
did
bad.
one thing right, Michael. We brought in a good guest. Which not to brag, but you generally do that, and you deserve a lot
Oh,
of credit
thank
for
you.
that.
Thank you.
So, Dennis, in the few minutes we got left, we want to talk some more about you, which you seem to like a lot.
Yeah, there you go. It's all about me.
Tell us about your podcast and how that's going and what that's all about, so people can sort of familiarize themselves with it and tune in.
Yeah. Well, it was based on when I was an anchor at Fox, and I used to twice a week, they'd give me all of 60 seconds to do a rant called What's Bugging Me. And they would run a logo of me with my glasses shattering and smoke coming out of my ears. And that inspired the podcast. And, I waited for several years for networks to hire me after I left Fox, waited for the offers to pour in because, damn, I'm good on television. None came. I still don't know why.
But it gave you time to write your book.
I mean, and so I was able to write 4 books in that time. I did things, again, it looked like a failure, but it opens up doors that never would have opened up. I never would have done a podcast, and podcasting is the future of cable news. And what's bugging me? It's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify, it's on my home platform, Ricochet, a great little conservative platform with 40 different pods. And I'm having a good time. I'm doing some of the best journalism of my entire career. It's hard to get a rung on the ladder out there. There's 5 million podcasts. If you can get 10,000 downloads of an episode, you are instantly in the 95th percentile.
Really? Wow.
I'm not there yet, but I'm, every now and then I'm halfway and working on it.
You will get there, sir. So you've written this book on Elon Musk, The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. As I recall, you're working on another book right now, right?
Yeah, well, I'm working on a couple different projects, actually. I can't talk about some of them, but I think I might have talked with you a little bit.
Yeah.
one, you've got to find a book and do something really contrarian. When all of the fish are swimming in this direction, you got to cut this direction. That's what you got to do, okay? Everybody
Yeah.
hates Walmart. It's putting small businesses out of
Yeah.
business. It doesn't pay its employees enough. I think Walmart is a national treasure. It
Yeah.
employs almost 2 million people and pays them a lot better than a small business would pay them. And it has allowed poor people to have a better life. They can afford an HD TV because of Walmart. It's an incredible company. So I'm gathering string on that. And I'm also interested in the idea of that whole idea of go woke, go broke, but its
Yeah.
impact on communities. Like look at
Yeah.
Delaware and the way they've treated companies very harshly, and now they're losing companies and going elsewhere. Look at Oregon and LA and places that are losing streams and streams of people because of their policies. So I'm looking around in that patch as well.
Wow. So, and you have your own website too, right? Where people can
Yes.
go and find your books and everything.
DennisNeal.com. I got to get control of that sucker, though. I kind of forgotten how to post to it. But X platform, I feel like, is the center of the world for everyone. It's an amazing platform, and that's where I'm doing a lot of my work. And that's where I promote my columns on Newsmax.com. Take a look at that reconciliation column on there that just went up today, and that's where I promote the podcast. You guys took a big chance. A little of me goes a long way. I can't believe you kept me on air for an hour. No one does that. You guys must be kind of out of your mind a little bit. I appreciate it so much, and you can tell I like to hear myself talk. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, we like to hear you talk too. You got a lot of very interesting things to say. Plus, you're a very funny guy.
Thanks.
So
That's the important part right there.
I'm sure people have been very entertained over the last hour. And if you have been, please share this and leave some comments, and do check out Dennis's most recent book and his other books. Check out his podcast. He's got a lot of great content out there. He just has published a new piece on Newsmax, he said, and he's how many articles have you published, Dennis? Hundreds at this point, right?
Oh gosh, over the course of my career, thousands. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of Dennis Neal out there. If we've wetted your whistle, you're going to get a lot of great stuff. So leave your comments, share this conversation if you really enjoyed it. Been really happy that you've been here with us. Dennis, we normally close off the hour with a prayer. Would that offend you?
No, in no way.
Okay.
Again, you put good words out there into the universe.
All right.
right.
Michael, take it away. Let's give us
Yes.
our closing prayer, if you would, please.
Yeah. Well, Lord, it's been so great to have a positive, uplifting conversation. And thank you that you've created us to create and co-labor and take dominion. Thank you for this opportunity, Lord, to shed some light and some laughs, which we all need. And thank you for humor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And Lord, we want to go to heaven too, just like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What you
So
just
thanks.
did,
Yeah,
express
ahead, Dennis.
gratefulness like that is a truly healthy thing to do.
Amen.
It's, feeling grateful and feeling good about the world then leads to more good feelings. So God would appreciate that.
That's right.
Amen.
And hey,
Amen.
that's what shameless plug. That's what 5 a.m. podcast is all about.
Yes, it
Is
is.
the positivity angle.
Yeah. Another shameless plug. Those of you who follow our good friend David Leese at Leaders on the Frontier, his podcast, which is available on Return to Reason, our former home. He interviewed me on his show, and I blathered on for an hour about all kinds of stuff that I usually talk about.
good.
So check that out too. I think Michael's posted that to our X page as well. If you
Not
want to
yet,
check
but
that out.
it's going up tomorrow.
Okay, great. So I want to thank our special guest, Dennis Neal, the talented, handsome, brilliant, and humorous author of so many books and great articles. Thank you so much for being on our program, Dennis, tonight. And it's been a real pleasure being with you tonight. And thanks to all of you, if you've watched this or listened to it. We hope that you've enjoyed it. God bless you all, and good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.